I'm a filmmaker, and I tell lies for a living. Yes, I'm a professional liar, and in the way that I create stories, and stories are imagining fake worlds and bringing them to life and making them seem true. So when I was asked to give this talk and present some sort of advice for people younger than me at the TEDxYouth AitchisonCollege, I wondered, what's a novel idea that I can give you that perhaps might stay with you? And I really agonized over this, especially considering the great panel of speakers before me. And then I finally got it. I had the answer. And rather than beating about the bush, I thought I'll just tell you what my novel idea is. And I implore all of you, like me, to get better at lying. And I'm going to let you hold that thought for a second. Chew on it. And while you do that, I'm going to tell you a story. On a crisp Sunday morning, when I was 16, I was going to play a football match a little ways outside the city with my friends. Now, we had two cars, one car filled with the 16-year-olds. There were four of us. Yes, we were underage drivers. Sorry, Mom. And then the car in front of us that was leading the way was filled with the 18-year-olds. At that time, an 18-year-old seemed like a towering figure. कि यार ये हमारे से कितने बड़े हैं, कितने वाइज हैं, कितनी दुनिया इन्होंने देखी हुई है. तो वो आगे आगे चल रहे थे, and we were in the car behind. And of course, at that age, our breakfast was cornetto, hikoki, chalk bar. And before playing a football match, which we were very serious about, we were having ice cream, we were listening to music on the radio, probably music by EP and Larry Chuti and Call, and to get us into the mood of the game. And generally just having a great time. The kid who was sitting in the passenger seat was a very funny guy, and he would just tell a joke after joke, joke after joke. And then he had one, just on the road on which the ground was, he told the best joke of the journey, and we all started laughing. We just got into a roarious laughter. In fact, the driver, Temur, turned around, looked at him, and was laughing. And it was at that moment that I heard over the roar a screech. And I know time didn't move slowly, but my memory of it, time kind of slowed down. I tilted my head to the right. I was in the back seat. I tilted my head to the right, and in front, all I saw was red braking lights. The car in front of us with the 18-year-olds was braking. I had no words that came to me to describe or to call attention to that. And just a primal yawp, came out of me. It was enough for Temur to stop laughing. Unfortunately, he looked at me first in the back seat and then looked at the front. The car in front swerved to the left, and just then, we didn't have time to brake the car. We took a right turn and just missed the car in front. But what we didn't know was there was a big black metallic beast, a black Range Rover, turning into us. And boom, we hit its right wheel, and the car, metal on metal, just clanked together. And it all went black. I woke up, my head was on the passenger seat. My forehead had a carpet burn from the fabric, from the impact. I came back, I saw that the kid sitting next to me was slumped on his own body. I lifted him up. The two in the front seat, their heads had banged into the windshield. I don't know if this was the right thing to do, but from the back seat, I just pulled them back, unclawing them from the claws of the windshield of the broken glass, and blood started coming down their faces. I stepped out of the car. I was shaking with adrenaline, trembling, in fact. The driver in the big black metallic beast, the Range Rover, luckily was a good person. He recognized that we were all underage drivers, took some pity on us, didn't press any charges. In fact, he even called an ambulance. Now at this point, the car with the 18-year-olds, I don't know what was happening in that car that caused this, came over, and while the ambulance paramedics are applying pyodine to our foreheads and bandaging us up, luckily, all of us survived. This is not a tragedy. The guy who was the captain of the team, towering figure, tall guy. I'm short now, I was shorter then. Seemed like this Herculean figure to me. Came over and said, boys, ye baat yahan se nahi niklegi. I was like, yaar, he said it. This must be the truth. Nobody tell your parents what just happened. This never leaves this little roundabout. I was like, okay, he said it, I'm going to do this. But we still had 2 hours to kill because there was no game. So we just loitered about on that crash site for 2 hours, telling jokes, getting our foreheads fixed. And then 2 hours later, when it was time, we all went back to our homes. And when I entered home, my parents were sitting in the lounge. It was a Sunday. My dad was probably watching golf. And he's flicking through the channels. He didn't even notice me walk in. Of course, I had a bandage on my head, but chor ki daadi mein tinka. So I entered the room and instantly dove into the story of what just happened. Totally uncalled for. And I told him, Abbu, I was playing the match. It was a great match. I dodged the defender on the right wing with my left foot. I took it to the right. He swiped my leg down. I fell with my head first. I rolled and tumbled around. That's why I have this burn. And there was a paramedic there with a first aid kit who came and fixed me up. Now, anyone who's played football in Lahore outside of like a school environment knows that there is no first aid box, there's no paramedic, there's no even, teams are also wearing the same colors. We just know who is in our team and who is in the other team. But anyhow, I told this great tale. And then finally, at the end of it, I was like, this tale needs to have, if I'm making it up, I might as well have my team win and score 2 goals. So in that match I never played, I'd scored 2 goals, my team had won, and I'd gotten this heroic wound on my head. And then I went in for a shower. And I thought, man, this 18-year-old guy, he's really set me up for life because this feels great. I'm in the clear, nobody knows. When I got into the shower, it must be the universe's dramatic timing because the light went. There's load shedding in Pakistan. I'm under the water and it suddenly becomes pitch black. And that's when this other feeling starts creeping up inside my body. At first I thought it's the medicines that the paramedics gave me. But it's a tempest, it's a storm. And it's weighing me down while it's rising through in my body up to my throat. It's making me feel really bad. It's a punishment. I now know that feeling to be guilt. When that was probably for a 16-year-old one of my earliest memories of feeling guilty. But it got to the point, it got so bad that I left the water running. I stepped out, dripping wet. I put a towel around my waist. I went out into the lounge and I told my parents, I came clean. I said, no, I just lied to you. I was in a car accident. My friends were driving. Yada, yada, yada. The big metallic beast, the ambulance, the loitering about, the lying to you. And that's when my father gave me 3 pieces of advice, which I thought I'd share with you. First, he said, and of course not to infantilize this audience, because it's not just students, all pieces of advice started with the word son. So I'll also use that. He said, son, never get in a car with underage drivers. And to this day, I haven't and I don't plan on, and I know many of you are 16 and wanting to get in a car. Don't do it, just wait for somebody older and get home safe. Safety is the most important thing. The next piece of advice was, son, never take advice from a teenager. And I think until I have teenagers of my own, maybe it changes then, but I strictly plan on living life without having to take advice from a teenager. If there's ever a problem you're going through, there's somebody older who's gone through it already. This story has been written for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. We've all seen the pain, the anguish, the uncertainty, the highs, the lows. Ask someone older, they might give you some good piece of sound advice. And lastly, he turned to me and he said, son, lastly, you should really get better at lying. And I took that one to heart. And I said, I am going to get better at lying. And I became a filmmaker, and I started creating these imaginary worlds and started bringing them to life. And in that journey, that's the journey I've taken the most seriously. The underage driving and the no advice from teenagers is momentary, but lying became a career. And in this discovery of lying, I realized it's oxymoronic, but to tell a good lie, you first have to chase the truth. Because every good lie contains in it a huge chunk of what is true. And that's the only way to be able to communicate something to another person. And in fact, a lie, in the means that I'm talking about it, a story, is just a vehicle, perhaps a better vehicle than just cold truth to communicate an idea. Quite like me starting this talk by telling you, hey, here's my piece of advice. You should get better at lying. Most of you would discard that like tissue paper and leave this room. But maybe the story I told you stays with you a bit longer. Maybe you glean some more lessons from it that I may not have experienced, but because you've experienced it with me, it now belongs to you. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure being on this stage and being back on campus. And thank you.